Hello and welcome to the SimHanger. My name's Mark, the SimHanger for all things flight sim related. We're in New Zealand, the South Island, and welcome also to J.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, Middle-earth. Today we're going to be flying in and around one of the wettest places on Earth. It's characterized by its huge mountain peaks and deep valleys, and we're on the west coast. Rudyard Kipling described it as one of the 8 wonders in the world, a popular destination for tourists with over 1 million visitors per year. We're in Milford Sound. This is part 1 of a 2-part series. And to make things more interesting and challenging, we're going to be flying in an aircraft not built for altitude. In fact, it's got a service ceiling of 3,500 feet. We're going to be VFR and dead reckoning. We're on the west coast of New Zealand's South Island and we're in prepared version 4.5. Scenery is from Orbx, it's New Zealand's South Island. Not installed today, but a further enhancement to the scenery is Milford Sound Airport. This package offers further enhancement to the 3 airports we're visiting in this series. We'll be flying in the A2A Simulation's Piper Cub, their most recent release, featuring minuscule attention to detail and, of course, their AccuSim. We've just landed at Quintin Lodge airstrip, and from there we'll be flying down the valley to Milford Sound. From there out over the ocean for a quick touch and go with floats, and then on to Martins Bay Lodge. Quintin Lodge features one grass and gravel runway with an upward slope. From Quintin Lodge we'll be flying through the valley, over Lake Ada, through to Milford Sound Airport. Scenic Milford Sound Airport has one hard surface runway. Surrounded by huge mountains climbing skywards, and Indiana Jones fans may recognize that mountain. We'll be departing Milford Sound on floats and doing a touch and go before turning and heading towards Martin Bay Lodge, another gravel and grass runway. We'll be flying VFR and skirting around the Queenstown control area. Quintin Lodge is slap bang in the middle of a number of valleys intersecting, a popular destination for backpackers and climbers. As we're in the Cub today, there's only one way to land, and that's uphill, and departure, head downhill. We'll be flying today in VR in my favorite VR headset, the Hewlett-Packard Reverb Pro, with one of the best resolutions that let me appreciate the scenery. Right, with all that out the way, let's get started. As the pilot of the Piper Cub, of course we're in the back seat, and that seatbelt over the control column, that's a control lock. Let's take that off. There we go. Simplicity is the essence of this aircraft. But don't underestimate the aircraft. The simplicity has been the undoing of many a cocky pilot. Click on the map in the pocket in front of you to bring up a 2D map. Bottom left is our trim, fuel on and off, as well as front throttle. There's a throttle in the back as well, and that's our carb heat. There's our magnetos. In terms of instrumentation, well, we've got just the basics. We've got an RPM, oil temperature, oil pressure, altitude and speed with a wet compass in the center. Get that trim right for takeoff or landing, or pay the penalty. Powered by a Continental A65 air-cooled flat-4 engine, it produces 65 horsepower, fairly slow, and note no flaps. That's our storage compartment. They say patience is a virtue. Well, that's definitely the case with the Cub J3. If you want to go somewhere quick, the Cub's not for you. If you want hands-on, seat-to-the-pants flying, yep, this is the one. If this doesn't hone your piloting skills, nothing will. We've got the Tundra tyres fitted for our first adventure, and the Cub comes with a variety of menus, including tie-down, control lock on and off, as well as hand towing and so on. Both pilot and passenger can have sunglasses. You can have it on or off, or it can do it automatically. The optional passenger is a young lady called Heidi, and you notice as she's added to the aircraft, it sinks slightly because of the weight. Really cool feature. You also have the option to swap out the pilot for a female pilot if you so wish. Typical A2A attention to detail. Other menus include a map, which always positions you in the center position, as well as a hand radio. Can be turned on and off by switching the knob at the top, and frequencies can be changed. There's also a small maintenance area where you can overhaul the engine when you damage it, which you will. Being an AccuSim aircraft, you've got to take care of it. Keep an eye on the oil, and I really like the way the fuel rod goes up and down as you change the fuel level in the tanks. AccuSim brings your aircraft to life. If you enjoy flight sim videos, then consider subscribing to the SimHanger for all things flight sim related. Don't forget to tap the bell for future notifications. Thank you. Well, it's time to get going, and for the first stage we're going to take Heidi to Milford Sound. Fuel is on. Controls are free and clear, and the tie downs have been removed, and now adjusting the trim. A little bit of nose up because of the extra weight that we're carrying. There we go. And now we need to prime the engine. I think we'll give it 3 primes this time. That should be enough. We're flying today in VR, and I'm using native VR in prepared version 4.5. Now our magnetos, we're going to change those to both. And now we need to look at the throttle and just push that forward about 1/2 to 1 inch. There's no electric start on the Piper Cub, and we have to manually do the propeller. Come on girl, let's start. Don't be awkward now. There we go. We're now going to taxi to the very beginning of the runway. I'm just going to go round this windsock. Now the Piper Cub doesn't need a lot of room to get up in the air, but there's some fairly high trees around and even higher terrain, so I'm taking no chances. You can take off in as little as about 400 feet and land in less, in about 300 feet, if you do it right. Carrying a passenger today, I'm going to need a little bit more runway. Taxiing with this tail dragger is a little bit of an art rather than a science. It does take some getting used to. Even if you have no passengers, the pilot's in the back seat for weight distribution. The Piper Cub has a tendency to nose over at the best of times, and especially so with the Tundra tyres, so caution. Visibility for the pilot, especially with a passenger, is, well, let's just say it's extremely limited. Throttle slowly forward. I'm just peering a little bit to the right every now and again so I can see where I'm going. That's looking good. Speed picking up. And we're up.
Oh my god!
A2A allow you to choose what type of passenger you've got, and I've chosen the nervous type. This could be fun. Watching my trim and trying to climb at between 500 and 600 feet per minute. Let's close that door. No flaps or gear retraction to worry about. Get the airspeed about right, set the trim, and the aircraft will fly itself. Most pilots will fly at around 1500 feet. It has a ceiling of 3500 feet. So flying over these mountains is not really an option for us at this stage. We're going to bank to the right and head down the valley to Milford Sound. Heidi, you're looking cool in the sunglasses. Keeping an eye on the airspeed as the Tundra tyres do cause more drag. The massive 65 horsepower motor allows you to cruise at 75 miles per hour, with a range of around about 220 miles. In addition to HDR and reflections, the aircraft features rain on the windscreen, and we'll be testing that out as we head into Martins Bay. We're now about ready to settle into cruise. Check the instruments. Whoops, sorry Heidi, a little bit too close perhaps. We're just finishing our climb, and then we're going to settle into cruise and enjoy the flight, and I'll see you again a little bit later on. Fantastic scenery from Orbx.
take this baby out on vacations.
I'm running an 8700K processor and playback in the VR headset is super smooth, even though I am recording this in 2D for playback as well as recording in VR. Let's see how nervous Heidi really is. Let's try a few slips and a little bit of rudder input. Milford Sound coming up in front of us. Just tapping back a little bit on the throttle and just starting a very slow descent. We're going to take it, there's no traffic in the area, we're going to fly pretty much up to the airport, then out over the sound, loop round and come in for final. Heidi, it's time to fasten your seatbelt. Milford Sound coming up on our right, and this is the airport as depicted in the New Zealand South scenery. If you get the Milford Sound add-on, then there's even more detail shown. A2A's Piper Cub reacts beautifully to input and is sluggish just when it should be. You can never really be too high in the Piper Cub. Using slips you can lose altitude very quickly. Now pulling back on the throttle almost to idle and putting the carb heat on, and you saw the puff of smoke coming out. Turning now on to final and starting my approach at about 45 miles an hour. Want to be over the threshold at about 40 and then floated down for a 3-point landing. Let's see how our passenger manages the landing. The biggest challenge in a Cub with a passenger is of course maintaining visual with the runway. Let's see how we do. Using VR makes it so much easier.
Are we going to crash? Oh my goodness. Oh my god! What are you doing? Have you done this before? What are you doing?
I'm pleased with that, pretty nice, a little bit way over to the right on the runway, but nearly a 3-point landing, not quite, but I'll take that any day of the week. I'm conscious of the Tundra tyres on the hard surface, so I'm going to let it roll out before very gently braking, turning around and heading back to the parking so we can drop Heidi off, where I believe she's got some friends waiting for her. Welcome to Milford Sound Airport, November Zulu Mike Foxtrot. For the next leg in our trip, we're not departing from Milton Sound Airport proper, but rather from the harbour, nestled in a corner close to Bowen Falls. And that is where the Piper Cub J3 on floats is waiting for us. It's ready for departure, so we'll be quickly climbing on board and heading out. But that'll be in part 2, and I hope that you'll join me then. Well, the Piper Cub with its 65 horsepower motor is not the most powerful aircraft in the world, and that makes water-based takeoff and landings even more interesting and challenging. We'll be ramping up the wind as well. Well, that concludes part 1 of our 2-part series. Don't forget to subscribe and tap the bell for future notifications. If you enjoy this type of thing, don't forget to check out my Quantum River adventure, where in a modified Cessna, we're flying in British Columbia and doing a number of dirt track landings and takeoffs. In these troubled times and the world is turned upside down, take extra special care of yourselves and each other, and I hope to see you all again very soon. Bye for now.